before we start Metal Gear Rising proper, there's one more piece of pre-release content I would like to take a look at. And that is the Metal Gear Rising demo that was included in Zone of the Enders HD collection. We won't be playing through the full demo. Just one little bit of exclusive content that it has that I think is rather interesting and worth taking a peek at. We're going to go to the story. Actually, let's go to the options first, because I think I want to use, yes, Type B controls. They're just a little more natural to me. Let's go to the story. I'm going to pick normal, and we are going to play the tutorial because the tutorial is actually an exclusive VR mission that does not appear anywhere in the retail game. There's Boris. I mentioned before he was part of the Metal Gear Solid Rising story, worked with the Paradise Lost army under Matkapluku or Big Mama, and was going to help Raiden in locating the corpse of Big Boss. Anyway, check it out. Cut what you will. And we will cut that cube. We can move the camera. We can choose the angle. We can cut two things at once.
This is blade mode. Have the idea?
We got it.
The number of targets in the VR space. Cut them down in whatever way you like.
So what kind of game is this? Well, as it says right there, it's an action game, and more specifically, it's a light, strong game. You know, one of those where you light, strong, light. You know, those types of combos. We can cut these cubes. Depending on what buttons you press, in what order, with what timing, you get different moves such as this. We can also ninja run, because Raiden is a fast boy. Well, we've got an enemy here. Of course, it's just a target, but more importantly, we've got dumpsters. Unfortunately, we cannot hide in them, but what we do see over here is this type of watermelon setup, very similar to the Metal Gear Solid Rising footage. We can make very thin watermelon slices. Of course, the watermelons are round. They react with physics, so depending on how you cut it, they'll sort of rotate and move around in a very early 2010s Havoc physics sort of way. It's very fun. There's some interesting things we can do with that. We've also got this bridge here, and if we cut this, you can see it's a dynamic object. That just means we can cut it. And you can see it started to tilt a little bit. It's not quite going to fall down because it's stuck there, but we cut this and go very quickly, it forms a ramp. It's not going to be too many puzzles like that in the final game, unfortunately, but we can go up here and we can get the glorious cardboard box. We can equip that, and we can use the sub-weapon button to take cover in the box. They had to include it in the demo. This animation, I believe, is directly from Metal Gear Solid 4. It might be modified ever so slightly. More watermelons here. Gotta be careful, though, because that floor breaks. We can cut it out from under us. Again, there's not going to be too much to worry about in the final game in regards to things like that. Oh, the watermelon's sandwiched. But there's still a couple times. So it's good to be aware of what can and cannot be cut. There are lore reasons as to why you can't just cut everything. There are not lore reasons to this, however. This is just a funny little bonus. If you cut certain watermelons in certain areas, this will eventually come down. A truly massive melon. And we can get very thin slices of this. Oh, look at that big watermelon disc. You can also just go kind of completely nuts and break the frame rate. The final game's a lot more stable than that, I will say. It still is pretty easy to slow everything down. Ugh, look at this. All these spaces for vehicles, no spaces for people. Where are my public parks? Where are my aquariums? Where are my walkable cities? Truly, we are in a dark post-Metal Gear Solid 4 future, so let's just deal with these. There's plenty of cars in the main game. They actually promoted the game with a big police car cut in half. It was pretty funny, pretty strange. So let's go over here and cut this.
Careful, Raiden. Some of those targets are holding hostages.
And so this is a tutorial for getting very specific cuts. We don't want to harm the lady here. Now, even though as Snake we could hold people hostage in the prior games, enemies have never really been able to do that. And looking at these, you would think that that's the implication, that this is something we might have to do in-game. But no, it's kind of really not. These are just kind of here to get you used to it. We'll cut that final one in a moment here. Things like this can be sliced and diced. And again, they just sort of havoc physics around. This is essentially a playground. This is built specifically for you, you know, someone who's excited for Metal Gear Rising to play through and kind of get a handle on how blade mode works. If you look, we've actually got unlimited battery here. That's supposed to be depleting and supposed to give us a limited amount of time to do these types of cuts. But again, because of the nature of this demo, they just give you this cool exclusive little playground. And since this isn't anywhere in the retail game, it's not really lost media, but it is rare media. So if you like Metal Gear Rising, if you're interested in Metal Gear, check out the Zone of the Enders HD collection. For one, because Zone of the Enders rules and you should really play it. But for two, just because, yeah, you get this exclusive little VR playground.
All right then. Enough with VR training.